Hi, in this video I'm going to do a review of this DeWalt DCF 801 brushless 12 volt impact driver. I've had it for about 3 months, so I'm probably in quite a good position to review it. I bought it in replacement for this old model, which is branded up in the UK as a 10.8 volt, but it's still a 12 volt. It's an impact driver, but it's not brushless. This is the DCF 815 model. I've hardly ever used this because it just hasn't got enough power and it's not really much good compared to an 18 volt. I'd read some good reviews of this brushless one, so let's see what I think of it. Initial impressions are that it's a bit taller than the old model, but quite a lot shorter. It's also got different settings, so it's got a low torque, a high torque, and a kind of what I call careful mode, and you can select them using this button on the top. It's also got an LED light, which is quite bright. It actually came with, I bought this as a bare tool, but it came with a belt clip and a bit holder, which if you've watched my review of the Bosch Flex Click, was my biggest bugbear about that. It's nice to hold. It's quite light. I've got the 3 amp hour battery on this, which is a new battery from DeWalt, which actually has a power indicator on it. The old 2 amp hour ones don't, and as you can see, they're branded up 10.8 volt. They're branded out 12 volt. I think DeWalt have brought it in line with the US branding. It's got a quick release chuck on it. Just push it in and it's single release, which is quite good. Bit holder comes in handy and it isn't very heavy. It fits on your belt quite well as well. In terms of my use, this is the competition it's got. This is the DeWalt DCF 895 brushless impact driver. It's 18 volt. It's got 3 speeds. It's quite heavy, especially with the 4 amp hour battery. My smallest battery is 4 amp hour, just because of the type of tools I use. In terms of weight, there's a hell of a difference, and in size, as you can see, probably end to end, not an awful lot in it, but height wise, this is much shorter. So I did get the tape measure out in the end, and this is 33 millimeters shorter than that. So I guess in imperial, that's just over 1¼ inches. The way that you define kind of the performance of an impact driver is generally in the torque it produces. The original 12 volt or 10.8 volt model produces 107 Newton meters of torque. This new brushless 12 volt produces 165 Newton meters of torque, and this 18 volt brushless produces 170 Newton meters of torque. So only 5 Newton meters different between this one and this one, which should mean that the performance is fairly similar. As I said, I've got 4 amp hour battery for this, a 3 amp hour battery for this, so that might make a little bit of difference in performance, but not much. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a little test between the original model and the newest model in 12 volt and see what the performance difference is. I'm going to do that with both 2 amp hour batteries, and then I'll do a comparison between the new brushless 12 volt and the brushless 18 volt that I've got, and I'll put the 3 amp hour battery in that and run that on the 4 amp hour battery because I don't have a 3 amp hour battery. The first test I'm going to do is I've got a piece of 100mm or 4-inch softwood just clamped in place here, and I've got a 70mm, which is just under 3-inch by 5mm screw in here, which is just under 1/4 inch. And I'm going to just try and screw them both in at the same time with both tools and see which does it the fastest. So let's see how that goes. That was actually quite a difference. The brushless put it in a lot quicker than the non-brushless. Now let's try comparing the 12 volt brushless against the 18 volt brushless. So these are 6mm by 80mm flange-headed structural timber screws. So I've now turned the timber on its end, and I'm going to try and screw these 6.7mm by 150mm sort of coach screws that I've used for a sleeper project into the end grain, and this should be a struggle for 18 volt as well as the 12 volt, but let's just see how they compare. that's that little test complete. I don't think this disgraced itself by any means, considering the lightness in weight compared to the 18 volt and the fact that it runs on a 3 amp hour battery and not 4. I bought it for about £80 as a bare tool. I think the 3 amp hour batteries are then about £30 each. So for £110 for such a compact, powerful tool, I don't think you can go wrong, really. Obviously, I'm linked to DeWalt in terms of the fact that I've got their battery platform. I know that some of the Milwaukee 12 volt tools are very good and very powerful. I did have one once, but I just didn't get on with the ergonomics of the grip. I find the almost gun-like grip of the DeWalt much better. In essence, I definitely recommend this DeWalt 12 volt impact driver for the lightness that it has and the power it has, the different speeds. It's got the belt clip, it's got the bit holder. I don't really think you can go wrong. I don't think it's ever going to be a complete replacement for the 18 volt tools, just given the power that they've got. If I was screwing in structural timber screws all day and things like sleepers, I definitely want this, and I still use this a lot. But for general work where I just need a bit of lightness and not as much power, this is fantastic and definitely my go-to tool now. I still use the Bosch Flex Click for the finer work, if you like, and also if I need to get into some tight angles and things like that. If you're interested in the review of the Flex Click, check out that review video that I made. But that's the end of the video. Be interested to hear your thoughts if anyone else has got any of the 12 volt brushless tools that DeWalt have recently brought out. It's definitely streets ahead of the old 12 volt impact. It's much smaller as well, feels a bit meatier. The weight probably isn't a lot in it either. So if you've got the 10.8 volt non-brushless impact like I did and were a bit underwhelmed by it, you'll definitely be pleased if you upgraded to the new brushless one. I hope you enjoyed the review and the comparison between the old, the new, and Big Daddy, if you like. I wasn't going to spend all day screwing loads of screws into timber. I do enough of that on my weekends anyway. If you're not a subscriber already, please press the subscribe button and hopefully see you again soon.